Hey, everybody. This is your host, Jonah Lupton of the Startup Sense podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have another incredible episode with a good friend. It is Branden Hampton. He is a social media icon. This guy's doing everything right now, from starting companies to writing books to advising other companies. He's currently an investor or advisor in a bunch of really cool startups, including Dollar Beard Club, Trendy Butler, Wherefore. So we're going to talk about some of that in a minute. We'll talk about the book, of course. How to set up a business for under $1,000. He wrote that with another good friend, Dan Fleischman. So all these things come to you in a minute, but first let's welcome Branden. Branden, how are you, man?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I started doing social media about 8 years ago on Twitter. I was super interested in technology since I was, 10 or 11. I borrowed money from my grandparents to buy a Hewlett-Packard and a Compaq back in the day. And I had always just been very passionate about, communicating online. And I was very interested in how it worked and how people's mentality was around communication. Even prior to the social media days, it was AOL Instant Messenger and it was ICQ and all the different internet forums, and everything was super interesting to me. So when things like MySpace, Facebook, Twitter started coming around, I was a very early pioneer with those. And it wasn't a job originally. It wasn't something that I thought, I'm going to make this my next career. I was just very aggressively competitive, and I truthfully, I just wanted more followers than the next guy, right? I was one of the first people, if not the first, that was not a celebrity or a large brand to hit over 100,000 followers on Twitter. And I just did that by reverse engineering what I saw worked. I paid very close attention to what people would get engagement on. And I used that to my advantage to do more of that and less of the things that didn't work. Before you know it, I started getting approached by brands, by different companies, whether it was just a product company or a larger brand, and saying, hey, we want to advertise to your audience. I didn't really understand the first couple times what was happening, but as soon as I did, I started going after the bigger spaces. And I said, what's the biggest spaces on the planet? Where are people spending the most advertising dollars? Where's the most attention at from a consumer standpoint? And I started building followings around different categories like fitness, makeup and skincare, fashion, the marijuana industry, like all of the ones that I knew were going to be super important in the future. So fast forward, I've built a network of over 33 million followers that I personally own across various demographics. I work with all of the top different influencers and celebrities in every single category. I work with the brands as well. So I play sort of liaison to both sides. And then, of course, we're using our social media influence, our marketing, our connections, and our resources to build products, to build companies, to build services around the various different entities. So at the core of it, we're a marketing agency in the different spaces, but we're also fuel to the fire for any product or company that wants to make themselves go.
Awesome. So much to talk about from that. When you work with these brands and celebrities, how do you typically set up pricing?
So there's no menu. That's probably the most common question that I get when a brand wants to do it is they say, send me your roster. What's the pricing, or what is it per 1,000, per 100,000, per million followers? And it's more of an intricate formula than one might think, because let's take somebody on Facebook that is super famous right now and has 10 million followers and fans on Facebook, and then compare them to somebody like, for example, Nelly. No offense to Nelly, but Nelly was popular many years ago, and he has 10 million Facebook likes, but his pricing is going to be significantly less than somebody who's more relative and has more visibility today. So when it comes to pricing, you take things like the Kylie Jenner, of the world, where, you're just sort of queen of the planet, and anything you say can generate, millions and millions of dollars for yourself or for your business. That's very important. And it's very hard to put a set pricing on something like that. Then again, you have, targeted influencers, somebody who has 15,000 followers and all they do is fix cars on YouTube. Like, That's a very, 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 very powerful influencer, even more powerful than, somebody who might have 100,000 followers in a different category. Because if you're Ford Motors and you want to run a campaign, why not run it with the guy who has 15,000 super engaged fans on YouTube, right? So the pricing and the way that paying an influencer or paying for influence works is all over the board. Everything is a custom, sort of proposal that we have to generate. And a lot of it also depends on who the company is. I'm going to charge Nike way more than I would charge fitness brand 123 to run a campaign, whether it's with an influencer or with the paid media or anything else. So it's a completely relative question. Who's the brand? What influencers are they after? Things can go in the hundreds of dollars all the way up to 7 figures.
Wow. So me and you both advise a bunch of startups. And I think, a lot of them understand the other marketing channels, PPC, SEO, email, content, etc. Social. Influencer marketing is probably the newest one that most startups have yet to really embrace. You work with some really cool companies. I mentioned in the beginning, Trendy Butler, Wear4, Dollar Beard Club. So how have you used influencer marketing as part of their strategies, to gain more customers?
Yeah. So for a brand, especially one that's running paid media, here's where I see the crossroad. An influencer can do a couple things. So an influencer can generate brand awareness, and that's the main thing that they can do. So for example, if you have a model on Instagram that has 2 million followers and you have a brand that you create or that exists where you want to reach a bunch of dudes, that's the perfect testing ground for your brand. You can see what sort of reaction you get. You see how many people are tagging their friends. You see what attention, what sales are driven. You can get, a lot of bang for your buck in doing something like that because you don't have to pay for that ultra high worth visibility. And at the same time, you can reach a pretty massive audience. Now, there's been companies that have had a lot of success, including some of my clients, where they go out and they buy influencer posts and it provides them a direct ROI. So for example, you pay an influencer $5,000, they generate you $8,900 in sales. That was successful because you generated yourself anything above $5,000 as your profit. Traditionally with paid media, you have, a product, you put it on Facebook ads. For example, you run a video ad or you run an image ad and you have, Cindy who lives across the street from you hold your product on her kitchen counter and you say, go buy this. And then you get your text down, you get your headline down, you get the ad copy that works, and then you're converting sales. So the interesting part, and I think the future of influencer marketing is where those two meet. Because if you can have your neighbor Cindy on your protein product on the counter and she's getting the sales through great ad copy, what if now you're not just paying an influencer to post on your social media who's influential in the fitness community? What if you actually used them on your marketing collateral to run your campaigns? I think the most common misconception is that the value is having the influencer post, and it's not. The value is having the influencer associated with your brand. Because guess what happens when you attach your influencer's face instead of Cindy's face? Maybe we like Cindy so much, but guess what? She doesn't have influence in the fitness community. It's your ad copy that's driving the awareness, driving the conversions, driving the click-through rate. But if you add the fitness personality on top of that same ad copy, you're going to get way more higher of a click-through percentage. And you're going to have a way better conversion ratio because you have the brand association. Same way that, Gatorade pays big bucks for LeBron James and Michael Jordan and all these characters over the course of time is because that stuff actually works. If you put a shoe on a major celebrity, you're going to sell more shoes than you would if you had no person attached to it or a random person attached to it. So I think that that's where, the sort of uniqueness of this situation is where the road of paid media and traditional media meet influencer marketing and incorporating influencers into the brand as a brand ambassador, as somebody who people associate with your brand instead of just paying an influencer for sales. Now, again, some of my clients, I was working with Shreds since nearly day one. They created a massive brand on social media. Fit Tea, one of my very first clients way back on the day, early Instagram, generated a ton of business from just posting with influencers and doing the arbitrage game. 5K out to an influencer, 20K in from influencers, and you rinse and repeat that across dozens of influencers, you're generating a ton of revenue, but it's not something that's scalable. When you combine that influencer's assets with paid media, now it's completely scalable, just like anything else is on Facebook, except for you have a more potent advertising campaign because you have that person attached.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of the Lupton Group and host of the Startup Sense podcast. Are you struggling to find the right tech team to build your company's website or mobile app? Maybe you've developed a product but need help with your go-to-market strategy, including branding and marketing. Well, stop worrying, because my team at the Lupton Group can assist you with all of those needs. We specialize in helping entrepreneurs and startups of all sizes launch and grow their businesses. For a free consultation, you can email me at jonahlupton@gmail.com or visit our website at luptongroup.co. Do you think influencer marketing campaigns are more successful when it's really just brand awareness? You know, you see an influencer holding up a product or mentioning a product, and that's overall brand awareness versus, you know, here's my discount code, you know, go buy this product and use this code to save 20%, 40%, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So people associate a code with either A, the person's an affiliate. So, you know, my favorite fitness influencer is now using me to earn a living and I feel abused, you know, which is a poor mentality because advertising has been doing that for years. 17 magazine writers don't just love writing about the content. They're writing the content because they have bills to pay, and they write about a certain topic, and then they go get advertisers and say, hey, we wrote this article about makeup on teenagers and makeup on 20-something females. So if you're a makeup company that wants to reach 20-something females, pay us a bunch of money, and then now you have your audience because that's who's reading our article. The same way applies with influencer marketing, but people somehow get offended still for whatever reason or another when there's a code attached. You know, and also it seems too salesy. I like the organic route of, you know, people using and product integration as opposed to doing it that way. Now, to answer your question more specifically, it's still a relative question because the initiatives of these different companies are completely different. And let me give you, you know, 3 contrasting examples. So, for example, number 1 could be Corona. If Corona came to me, we could probably run the most successful campaign for Corona in a very long time, if not ever, by getting all of the right people to be drinking Corona. You know, the same way Diddy did with Ciroc. You know, Ciroc was a failing brand before Diddy came on. And all he did was bring a face, bring influence, and he made it cool. He made it hip. That would be a brand awareness campaign. We're getting people to see Corona. We're getting people to think about Corona. We're getting people to make a Corona-related buying decision sometime in the future. The second example, which is somewhere in the middle, is more like a Trendy Butler type company, for example. We do a lot of paid media. The company's raised some money and it has a bankroll. They can go out and acquire a new business. And for those of you who don't know, Trendy Butler is essentially a subscription company for men who don't want to shop, but want you know, all the greatest and latest styles. So you fill out a data profile. It has, you know, more than a dozen different data points that we collect on you. If you like green, but you hate red, you don't like stripes and you don't like patterns and you don't like text on your shirts, you let us know all these different things and the algorithm will spit out exactly what clothes we should send you. And they're going to fit nearly every time. And you pay $65 a month. And that's it. Very simple, straight to your door, over $150 worth of clothes.
So I would be the ideal customer for Trendy Butler then.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. It fits a certain type of person, which is you don't want to be, you know, in dad clothes like me all day. And then you're also not the guy who's spending, you know, $400 on the Kanye West plain white t-shirt. You're somewhere in the middle where, again, maybe you don't like to shop necessarily as much as maybe your wife or girlfriend does, but you want nice stuff without having to either A, pay for it, or B, even go out and shop for it. So, you know, it's curated stuff that's just for you. Now, that again sits somewhere in the middle. It's not Corona where we can afford to just pay for brand awareness so everybody knows the name Trendy Butler, but running awareness related campaigns that also generate sales, whether either short tail or long tail. Short tail being the impulsive stuff like, wow, this is me, I have to have this, or B, wow, that's a cool idea. And then, you know, 2 months later, we retarget you in an ad and you'd be like, I forgot about Trendy Butler.
Right.
Now I'm ready to act on that. And then the third tier is a product company that's not building a brand. So if you have a, cool tchotchke product and it's a, smoking device in the marijuana category. And you're like, I just want to reach people who want to smoke. I'm not going to build a brand. I'm not going to Target and Walmart with this product ever. Maybe you throw it up on Amazon. These types of companies have to have a direct ROI on every dollar they spend. So the difference between the three companies is Corona can come to me and they can say, here's $100,000, just get our name out there, give us a bunch of impressions and we're happy. Sometimes people are going to buy, sometimes people aren't. Sometimes people already hate our beer and aren't going to drink it. Some people love us and they're going to be reminded of us. Trendy Butler would say, okay, well, part of those sales are long tail, part of them are short tail. We're going to generate some sales. Here's our acquisition cost up front. Here's our retargeting acquisition cost down the road. And then the third one is the startup, the product company is going to give you 10 grand and they're going to remind you every 5 seconds, hey, if I don't get a positive ROI on this 10K, I'm going to be out of business. So those are the three different sort of levels of companies that you're dealing with. And the brand initiative is always the most important thing, is what do they want to accomplish? And then figure out on a case-by-case basis, is running Facebook ads for this brand, is running influencer posts for this brand. So every single company identity and goals and initiatives are different, and they have to take those things into consideration when they figure out if they're going to do an influencer campaign or not, if they're going to do paid media or not.
So you're clearly very involved with Instagram, through influencer marketing, through your own stuff. What are they doing to help influencers? I mean, for a very long time, you've been able to, you can tag brands and posts, but there's really no active links, either in the descriptions or even in the, the images. It's, I don't think they're linking to websites yet. Is any of that stuff coming?
So on Facebook, it exists now. And obviously Facebook owns Instagram. Instagram, they acquired, later. So they're a little bit more behind on it. Maybe now they're caught up and they're just not rolling stuff out. But the way that it works with Facebook now is, for example, if Corona does a campaign with influencer A and they have 5 million fans, what they do is if they tag Corona in their post on Facebook, the same way you do on Instagram, you just @ Corona. Now what happens is when Corona goes from their page, like if they're logged in, the administrator of Corona is logged in, and they click on the post that the influencer did, they are able to now see the analytics that the influencer sees because they're tagged in the brand.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not brand new, but it's newer. And a lot of people don't know about it yet because a lot of people aren't doing those big branded campaigns. But yeah, so if Trendy Butler, for example, let's say we go to a clothing manufacturer and we say J. Crew, has their own clothing, right? So now next month's box for February's box, we're going to give you J. Crew stuff that you would normally pay $150 for, still your normal $65 a month. And J. Crew is going to pay us for that placement, let's say. We would say February box featuring all J. Crew stuff, significantly discounted, but the same quality. We would be able to tag J. Crew in there. They can go through Trendy Butler and J. Crew would both have the exact same analytics on Facebook. They would go in, they would see how many people the post reach, how many people engaged with it. If it's a video, we can both see that it was a 3-minute video and everybody was watching until the 2-minute and 20-second mark. All of the data that the influencer has is now passed to the brands. And Facebook is actually requiring that if you do a branded campaign for Corona or J. Crew or anybody else, you have to tag the brand. And if you don't tag the brand, they will remove the content because it's a new requirement under their branded content policy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
what's their reasoning for that?
Instagram is sure to follow that just the way they have with everything else. Advertising platform, like campaigns, follow campaigns, all that stuff started on Facebook and now it's slowly inching over towards Instagram. They want more and more people to connect their Instagram accounts to their Facebook accounts because Facebook has so much more data on you than Instagram does. But if they're connected, now they have the same amount of data.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. Let's talk about the book. So you and Dan wrote this book. How long ago did you guys come out with it?
We came out a few months ago. We never did an official launch for it. It was essentially our answer to all of the questions that we get on a pretty regular basis. We get a lot of DMs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, my email is filled up. And a lot of the questions seem to be very, very, very similar, just asked in different ways with different variables. Like, here's my idea, blank. How do I make it a reality? Or, hey, I have this money. What should I do in business? Or how should I invest it? I haven't started an official company yet. I actually launched my website, but I don't have an LLC set up. How do I do that? How do I take payments? Like most of the things that we were being asked were all, very, very similar in context. So what we did is we said, look, we can't, as much as we would like to, we try to answer people as much as we can and help where we can, just for adding value to people. And I feel like if we plant that seed out there, the universe will bring it back to us in some way, shape, or form. I don't have to take a percentage of everybody's company, to help them out. I don't have to say, let me see if I like this idea for me personally to try to make it go for you. And we just said, look, let's answer all the most important questions that people are asking on a pretty regular basis. Let's put them all in one place and let's put the book out that way. Instead of thousands of people hitting us up, thousands of people could just go read the book, get all the information that they need. And it'll probably not only reduce the workload of questions that we're being asked, but it increases the value to our people that follow us and look up to us as sort of mentors or advisors or people that they can just turn to when they need some sort of motivation. So how to set up your business for under $1,000 gives you all the tools necessary. It's a very entry-level book, but what's interesting is a lot of our friends who already own businesses were like, wow, I found one piece of information here that I had no idea about, and it's going to, help out my business that already exists and already makes XYZ amount of dollars. It's going to add a ton of value there. And it's a good refresher. It's like going back and reading the basketball rule book to see what the next loophole is that you can take advantage of and better yourself. So
what are your favorite 2 or 3 kind of snippets of advice from that book?
A lot of it has to do with the fact that people make the mistake of not starting the business because they think A, it's too expensive, and B, it's going to be overwhelming. Number one, it's not overwhelming and it's not expensive. Most of the tools that you need, and that's just my core resounding advice on the book, is that you don't need investors to launch every single product. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars to get your website launched. Most of the things that you need are available to you, and they're available either for free or for very, 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 very low cost, which the name holds true to itself, is that from point A to point B, you can go from idea and concept and scribbled notes on a notepad to a running, functional, active business that can take payments and service customers for under $1,000. That's the core message of the entire book. I don't have a core like 3 or 5 or 10 things that stand out. That's the entire messaging of the book. And every piece of information goes towards that one single cause, which is being able to get your idea off the ground and get your business started. And then later figuring out like, hey, shit, this works. Now I need capital behind it. But then when you're going to an investor or a friend or a family member to get them involved, you can show them data and say, this isn't just an idea. I went out, I showed it to 100 people, and I got 7 sales. That's a really, really, really good sign. So now it's time to take this business seriously. And then on the flip side, even more valuable is if my idea sucks, I'm not 50K or 100K or investors into it by the time that I actually realize that, because I've gone out and I've actually tested it.
What are your favorite marketing hacks? Because it's like you said, anyone can start a business for under $1,000. You can do your own legal work, which I've done before plenty of times. Setting up your own website. There's plenty of these kind of drag and drop, build it yourself website builders now, which I've used and I'm sure you have as well. But when it comes to marketing, right? If you're starting for under $1,000, you can't do a lot of big Facebook ad campaigns. You can't pay for influencers. So what would you recommend to them?
Yeah, so I'll tell you that one of the most undervalued tools on all of social media is Twitter search. And the reason that that's important is because on Instagram, you can search, but it's based mostly on hashtags and usernames. So for example, if you, let's say, I'll give you a perfect functional real life example. So I got married in October. And what I did was I own the username weddings on Instagram. And a lot of the vendors that I worked with, I traded, some of the work that they did in exchange for promotion on social media and advisory and consulting to help them grow their business. So instead of me paying them their full rate or paying them at all for their services, I said, let me help you revolutionize your business from me on out, right? So now what I did was I said, let's use a practical example. The person who made my wedding invitations, they said, how can I grow my business on social media? I don't know what to do. I don't have money to spend. I have actual hard costs involved. So I said, okay, let's go on Twitter search. Went on Twitter search and I searched just got married, just got engaged, wedding invitations. I searched those 3 terms and we found somebody like literally less than an hour before that they had tweeted, and it was a verified account on Twitter, and they had, about 100,000 followers, and I think they were on a reality show. And they said, I'm so excited to be engaged to insert guy's name here. First on the agenda is finding wedding invitations. Does anybody have any suggestions? And what I did was I went on Instagram, I scrolled through, and the girl's sitting right in front of me watching me do this. And she's saying she can't find new business. It's hard for her to find new business. I went to her Instagram and I found 3 really cool things that stood out on her Instagram. She made some biggie, like bachelor party invitations. And it was like some funny line, some funny biggie line, but it was like very professionally made. It looked like a real bachelor party, bachelorette party invitation, but at the same time, it had like a fun spin on it. So I screenshotted it and I uploaded the 3 examples and responded to that person. And I said, the girl who made my wedding invitations is XYZ. And here's some examples of her work. What do you think? And she actually responded to me and she's like, those are amazing. Could I have her contact information? So now put yourself in the position of being the business instead of me being the person recommending. The business can say, these are some examples we made for our clients. I hope whatever company you choose does an amazing job. And what you're doing is you're not saying, pick me. You're just saying, hey, if you have any questions, feel free to use me as a resource. I've been designing invitations. Here's a portfolio of all my work. Well, what ended up happening was that person reached out to the person that I recommended, and they bought their wedding invitations, they bought their menus, they bought their name tags. They basically bought the entire line of products that she has for the wedding, including shower registry, like literally everything. And it ended up being, probably approaching the $10,000 mark of a client to her. And I found them for free with a 0 acquisition cost on Twitter search, because you can search what people are saying. Another example of that, this wasn't for business, this was for personal. You can use it for personal or business. But again, the question is as it pertains to business, but let me give you an example of how specific you can be. I used to have an Alienware laptop. It's a big gaming laptop. They're not like a mass market thing that everybody's out looking for. And I listed it like on Craigslist and I listed on eBay and it didn't sell. So what did I do? I went on Twitter and I searched want Alienware, and maybe 15 of them came up over the past 2 months of people saying, I wish I can afford an Alienware laptop, blah, blah, blah. So one of those people, it turns out, actually followed me, and I hit them up and I said, hey, I have an old Alienware. Here it is. I'll give you a deal. I sold it like within seconds later, because of the Twitter search feature. You're searching conversations. You're searching inside people's thoughts of what they're saying, what they're doing. So it doesn't matter if you own a car air freshener company, go out and search my car stinks and see how many people come up and say, go check this product out. It's only $9 on Amazon. You don't have to say it's yours. Like, use your personal account to go out and aggressively drive traffic to your business. And you can do it with your business page. You can do it however you want. But the meaning behind that, my favorite hack is Twitter search, for that exact reason, because you can search people's thoughts and what's going on in people's minds, because usually people are expressing those feelings on Twitter in text format.
Great advice. Yep, I love it. And there are a couple companies out there that have developed software that will kind of help you do some of those searches and find the conversations where you can insert your company or your product.
You can automate it, but at the same time, right, like, I feel like it's so authentic to go in there, and there's never going to be, unless you're trying to sell something that's so generic that you just don't stand a chance. If you're selling something that's very specific, again, wedding invitations, go out and search for people on Instagram who just got married, right? They hashtag, just got engaged, hashtag just engaged, hashtag I'm engaged, hashtag we're engaged, hashtag she said yes. Like, go search those, comment on the picture of her holding the ring and say, congratulations, let us know if we can help. If you're in the wedding space, you should do that on every hashtag of just engaged, she said yes. Like, every single one of those, go hashtag, and you'll get a bunch of new customers, just because the average person doesn't know where to start when they get married. So if you put yourself in front of them and make yourself available as a resource without being too aggressive, saying, here's my stuff. It's only $499. Like, you're not trying to sell them. You're just trying to let them know you exist.
So one of the companies you mentioned in our pre-call, and I mentioned in the introduction, which I think just is doing such a cool thing, is Wherefore. So WHEREFOR. Tell us about what they do and what your relationship with the company is.
Yeah, so I'm an investor and an advisor into this company. Essentially, what it was, and by the way, they did a 500 startups event, and TechCrunch named them the next unicorn. So let's hope that's true. That'll be a good ROI for me. But essentially, what they do is it's a travel site, but at the same time, it's more of a discovery platform than anything. I know a ton of people who travel often, and even including myself. I've been to Vegas over 60 times in my life, right? I've been to Miami, I've been to New York. I go to a lot of the same spots, but the most common reason is that people, they don't know where to go because they're not familiar with, foreign countries and world traveling and things like that. And then B, they think it's too expensive, and it's really not. So what the platform does is, instead of going like a traditional search engine, if you go to Kayak or Hipmunk or any of these, what you do is you say, Jonah, me and you are going to go to Miami together, and we want to go Friday the 13th through Sunday the 15th. And then we look at flights and we look at hotels and then we book it. The problem with that is that, again, if you know where you're going and you have to go to a specific destination, that's cool. But a lot of people like traveling just to travel for the experience. So what you do is you enter a budget, $1,000 a person, $500 a person, $10,000 a person, and then you enter the dates, and it'll show you a map of where you can go in the world for that particular amount. So that's where the name comes from, is wherefore.com, is like, where can I go for how much? Now, the testimonials on this thing are just insane, because it's very unique in that, if this lady was like, I do my girlfriend and I do a trip every year, and we go to the same places because we didn't know that we can go to Colombia or Chile or some of these other countries for the same price, and sometimes even less than the places that we already visit. We just thought it was too expensive, so we never looked up going to Italy, right? So it's a curation tool for different destinations. You enter in the budget, you enter in the dates, and then you just see where you can go for that. And it's for creating new experiences. And then we're also working with the different tourism boards for each country for them to give us content. So for example, if it tells you that you can go to Santiago, Chile, instead of saying that sounds cool, now I have to go do research on what there is to do there. Instead, you'll just click on it directly on our site. We'll show you all the different videos of the different places you can visit. We'll have restaurants. We'll have all the different categories that you can just click on. What is there for shopping? What is there for tourism? What is there for romance? And then you can have all these different categories that you can search through within each destination.
So cool. I love it. I mean, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. We were trying to figure out where in the world we can go for a few $1,000. So
exactly. And that's where it's so powerful. And we're launching. We actually got sidetracked. We had a massive brand that I don't know if I can name yet, but it's a let's call it a Fortune 50 company, and we're going to start doing corporate travel for them. They do a significant amount of bookings a year, and we've created a very cool algorithm for the corporate booking, to where it saves the hassle. I think the biggest pain point of corporate booking is that when the employee is doing the booking, which is most of the time, they say, go pick your hotel, go pick your airline, what flight works for you. Are you going to fly in on Monday? Are you going to fly in on Tuesday morning? And usually what people do, and it's our nature, like, if it was me, I would do the same thing, is if I have a meeting on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., I want to fly in Monday night because I want to be comfortable. But what does that do? Maybe it's a more expensive time to fly in, and maybe it's going to cost me an extra hotel night on the company's dime. Or even worse, I do my 10 a.m. meeting, and instead of leaving after that, I stay another night, right? So now I'm costing 2 extra nights, and then I book the most expensive flight. Well, what this does is, all you do is you input your employee ID. It ranks you based on where you rank in the company. If you're a C-level executive versus, middle management, you're going to get completely different flight options. You're going to get completely different hotel options. And then, at the end of the day, we're reducing the amount of rooms nights that are booked, and also the most economical stay based on where your meeting is going to be.
So Wherefore could also be kind of like the outsourced corporate travel partner?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So how do you find these companies, right? I mean, you obviously work with some really cool, innovative startups. We've talked about three so far on the show. Are you finding them? Are they finding you? And, what do you look for in a company before you start working with them or consider an investment?
Yeah. So typically, a lot of the companies are just, for example, I'll tell you how I found all three of these. That would be interesting. So Wherefore was actually an introduction from a good friend of ours. His attorney happened to be an investor and also the attorney of record for Wherefore, and he said you should meet these guys. I met them. I loved it. They offered me an advisory role, and I said I'd like to also invest. So the founder was gracious enough to let me do that. In terms of Trendy Butler, and this is the best. This is the absolute best one. The reason, by the way, that I invested into Wherefore was because I thought I would use that. That's badass. Like I want to tell people about this, and I want to make sure I have some upside when I start telling people about this. Especially because I was like planning my bachelor party at the time, and I had already booked it to Miami. Like who knows if I would have found out about this beforehand, where I would have gone, because Miami was just our sort of default. But yeah, I always look for things that are useful and practical to me. And just like you said, like, wow, I'm a customer for Trendy Butler. The way that I found Trendy Butler is I reached out to Trendy Butler and I said, I would love to get a huge box of shit every month because I don't like shopping. I like the styles that you guys pick. I like the styles. So if you guys just send me a free box every month, I would just post it for you. And I would do a little bit of free marketing in exchange for a box, which, costs them a marginal percentage of what the actual box goes for every month. So I thought it would be a good exchange. I just wanted a new wardrobe for myself, right? But then I started talking about here's what I do, and here's the accounts that I own, and here's the marketing that we do. And then fast forward, I helped bring a few investors for their next round. So I helped with that, help with social media marketing. We did some big photo shoots with them. And, now I just give advice whenever they need it. I look for opportunities to help the company. But that one, I sent them a cold direct message on Instagram and said, hook me up with some free clothes and I'll hook up with some free marketing. And it led to me making a pretty significant investment into them. And now just, offering up advice where I can. So I think that practicality in terms of like, hey, I'd use that, or that's cool to me. Not just, I think, a cool idea in general, but something I would actually use for myself. That's always important. And then that leads to the next one, which is Dollar Beard Club. So one of the guys who worked for Dollar Beard Club, we were at a Super Bowl party in Arizona a couple years ago. When it was in Arizona, we were throwing the event for All In Magazine, charity poker tournament, and a random guy holding a beard just came up to me and caressed my beard. And he said, "Nice beard, man." And we started talking because beards are brotherhoods, right? And we were like, yeah, this is a cool thing. We're launching in a few months. This was like obviously February because Super Bowl's in February, and they were going to launch in May. And we just started talking, and I thought, yeah, that would be cool. That sounds like a cool product that, again, I would use. And I liked the concept of it. Subscription was just starting to ramp up. And I thought there could be tremendous upside in this. And I would love to help in any way that I can. So we put together a social media marketing campaign. We came on board as advisors and developed a really good friendship with Chris, the founder, Alex, the co-founder. Like those guys are just great. And, not only have we built friendships, but we also built, ourselves into helping them in any way that we possibly can. Because again, we believe in the product. So there's no, I don't have a website where you can go to and just submit an idea. Another way that
you need one.
Yeah, well, we will eventually. That's the long-term play for us is like, look, we have a ton of resources, we have a ton of connections, we know how to do a lot of things, and we think that we can add value into a lot of different companies, be it capital. I think that that's the least effective way to assist some of these companies. I think mitigating a lot of their risk by helping with marketing, plugging in a lot of the things and people that we know already work, and saving people testing and large budgets that go, abused. I think that those are probably, the most common ways that we can participate. But another way is that we do a quarterly event called Elevator Night, and it's essentially our own version of Shark Tank. We have 10 or 12 companies come up, they pitch for 5 minutes each, and then we have 300 angel investors that sit in the audience. There's no interaction directly between them. They pitch, Nobody asks questions or anything. And then afterwards, we have a mixer. People have food, people have drinks. And then you can just walk up. If you're an investor, you walk up to one of the founders that pitched and say, hey, I liked your idea. Let's talk more. And then they'll either connect then, or they'll ask after the event for me or Dan to connect them. And it's just a really good networking event. And we put it on our own dime. We don't charge the investors to attend. We don't charge the companies to present. Usually when we put out notice that we're going to do those events, we'll only do it a week in advance. And then we'll have 300 to 400 decks and presentations that are sent to us. So it's a really good curation tool for companies, for us to find new opportunities for ourselves, but also to help the startup and entrepreneur community by putting them in front of people that we know that make investments. And it's always their companies that are raising under $1 million. We want it to be realistic. Nobody's going to get $72 million for their D round at our event. Like, it's just not happening. But angels are doing 50K, 100K, 250K type stuff, or even collaborative effects where they'll get 5 people to put in 50K each.
You do those events in LA?
We've done it in LA, but we've had a lot of requests from people wanting to put them on in Vancouver and Canada, and then in Miami and New York, obviously. So we are planning a huge event. It'll be our first paid event that people can attend. It'll be an entire weekend that we're going to announce at the end of January. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. It'll be same brand. Elevator Nights is going to be putting on. We're actually switching to Elevator brand. Elevator is going to be putting on a large event, and would love to present that to you when it becomes available. But at the end of the day, again, it's just getting people in our network together with other people in our network, seeing who can benefit who, seeing who can drive value to who. And then that's the name of the game. And then, eventually that comes back to us in some way, shape, or form. We don't always have to get a commission. We don't always have to get a piece of the action. We don't follow up on those things and say, what ended up happening when you met so-and-so 6 months ago? How much money have you made together? What's my piece of it? Like, we don't really do any of that. We just connect for the sake of connecting. And then every once in a while we get thrown a bone, which is cool. But it's just more about feeding the community and making everybody aware of the fact that we have a huge network and we have a lot of resources. And if people do want to get us involved in their operation, in their project, in their company, in any shape or form, we're always willing to help.
Yeah, I mean, definitely yourself. And I know you're very close with Dan. You guys do some business together, and the two of you certainly put out a lot of good karma. So, I mean, I hope a lot of it's coming back to you, and it sounds like it probably is. With Dollar Beard Club, so, I mean, I first heard about the company, I don't know, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, when I saw one of their videos, right? So they've, kind of like Dollar Shave Club, they did a really cool video. Were you part of that? And then, I mean, how much do these companies spend on these videos hoping they go viral? Not all of them do. I think Dollar Beards Club definitely did.
Yeah, so that concept was all the Dollar Beard Club squad before I got involved. That video was made and finished before us. We helped distribute it on social media when it first came out. I think that, everybody anticipated, getting our first, 50, 300, 500 members, fingers crossed 500 members in the first week with the video and getting a little bit of traction. The video actually ended up getting so much traction that it was covered by BuzzFeed and all these, Bro Bible, all these different venues were covering it straight out of the gate because of the awareness that was created on social media. And I believe Dollar Beard Club ended up getting just under 11,000 members in the first 48 hours because of all the social media traction and because of all the press traction. And what's funny is that since that video, there's been a dozen or so other videos. And if we organize them, and here's the very interesting thing that people should take into consideration. If we organized them by how much we spent on the production of the video, they're in reverse order of the amount of success and results that they drove. The very first video cost the least amount of money and drove the most sales. So you don't have to go out and spend $100,000 on a video, which we did one time. They planned this super intricate video that had all these different sites and destinations to film and all the different people involved. And the production cost behind it, not talent or anything like that, like just the production behind travel and all the different, shots that you want to get and capture and make it super high tech. Like that one had, mediocre results. and especially in terms of ROI, in terms of the money invested, in terms of what it would bring back in terms of views. And that's, the same across the board. It's like all these different things that go viral. It could be a business and a company like this, or it could be a song, Hit the Quan. They created the Hit the Quan challenge on Instagram, and it went viral because everybody wanted to remake the Hit the Quan challenge. But guess what you have to do to do the challenge? You got to download the fucking song, right? It's genius. But very few people know that the Hit the Quan challenge, Sony didn't do that. Warner Brothers didn't do that. Interscope didn't do that. Some guy rented a soundproof closet and filmed it in this makeshift studio. Probably, I think if I read the information correctly when I heard the story, it was like they rented a closet for $200 for a few hours, and like the song generated hundreds of millions of plays, not even counting the social media stuff. I'm talking about Spotify, YouTube, all the different music streaming sites. They generated, tens or hundreds of millions of plays off a couple $100 of work. And then there's artists who the labels get involved and they invest millions of dollars into trying to build and develop new artists that are breakout, and it just doesn't happen. So if it can happen for $200 and then it doesn't happen for millions, it really is just all about the content, all about the messaging. And sometimes, Star Wars Mom, like, we'll never know, was that something created by Facebook to push Facebook Live, or did it happen organically? Like, in my opinion, like, I think it happened organically because it was just so authentic. It's hard to create viral with the plan and intention of creating viral, and most things don't happen that way. There is a way to reverse engineer things and to put all the right pieces into play to give yourself the best opportunity. But again, at the end of the day, whether it's a viral video for Dollar Beard Club that cost $900 versus one that cost 90 grand, or if it's a song that, $200 into a soundproof closet, or $10 million into developing a new artist over the next 2 years, those things don't really matter. At the end of the day, people are receptive to what they're receptive to, and no dollar figure is ever going to change that.
Totally agree. Right. I mean, it's good to have a marketing budget, but you can't force people to share stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it always frustrates me when people say that, hey, I want to go viral. How much does it cost? Like,
right.
Well,
if only it was that easy.
Yeah, your product sucks. It's impossible for you to spend $100 million and go viral. If people don't like it, people don't like it. If they do, they'll pick up on it. Of course, you got to plant those initial seeds. You have to go out and let people know that it exists. But, you can go on Facebook and you can watch a video and you can see that it has 103,000 views, and maybe people weren't super receptive to it and they did paid media to get the 103,000 views. But then there's videos that have 65 million views and it was 100% organic because people shared it, right? And you can go in and you can try to identify all day long, like, what did this video have? They got 65 million organic views versus this one that got 103,000 views and nobody shared it and they were all paid views. You can go in and analyze those, but sometimes, again, it just happens.
What's the one thing that you're working on right now that gets you the most excited?
I think the foundation in general of all of our different services are exciting. And the reason that I say that is because I don't want to create a system or a method or a trick or a hack that works for one thing and only that one thing. I like creating systems that are agnostic. So, for example, the social media strategy that I use for growth, for building accounts, those things are agnostic. I can do it on my page at marijuana and build up around the marijuana category, or I can do it on at makeup and build up around cosmetics. Two completely different demos, but the tricks and the hacks and the styles and the methodology works universally across those things. So now, sort of what we're doing is, like, I like being the house in every opportunity possible. I don't want to go outsource half of the things that we do and then do the rest in-house. We want to do design and development in-house so that we don't have design and development expenses. We want to have the ability to do shipping and fulfillment on our products without having to go randomly pick fulfillment centers and test and see who works and who doesn't. We don't want to, go out and hire an agency. Like, we want to be the agency. So I think that if you can figure out how to be the house in every scenario possible and mitigate your risk of putting that work in somebody else's hands with your dollars and risking that money or risking resources, I think that that's the best thing. My favorite category right now, I have I have to say is the marijuana space, with it just being recently legalized in a lot of the major states that are very important, California namely. I think that it's just going to be a booming industry. I've built up the largest, most engaged audience in that category, which I'm very excited about. We have over 4 million consumers that we reach through our different various brands. And that is exciting to me because it's not an industry where you can just go out and run a TV commercial or buy magazine ads or put up on billboards. It's regulated the same way that, alcohol is, and the same way that tobacco used to be. And I think that they're going to be very careful about what they allow you to say and not say on TV, say and not say in magazines, say and not say on radio, say and not say on TV. But guess what? If I already have 4 million followers, I can put whatever I want to in front of those people and build a brand and sell products to consumers. And nobody else can do that in the space right now, at least not even nearly as significantly as we can. So I would say that that's one of the ones that I'm most excited about.
One, how do they connect with you? What's the best way to find you, either online or via email? And then second is, for any startup founders out there looking to get into influencer marketing for their companies, connect with brand ambassadors or whatever, how do they go about that? How do they reach out to you and how do they get started?
Yeah. So, coincidentally, I met my business partner on Twitter a few years ago. And I think that obviously is where all the attention is. And I don't mind. In fact, I insist on, communication there or through email. So my handles are very easy to remember. So I'm Money on Instagram, I'm Money on Snapchat, and then I'm CEO on Twitter. And you can add me there, send me a direct message on any of the platforms. And then, of course, you can send me an email if you'd like. And it's just hello@brandenhampton.com.
How did you get such awesome usernames and handles?
The fast forward version is I remember I was 11 years old. And I was typing in domain names in the mid to late 90s, and everything was available. Everything was available. I could look around the room and say, Pepsi.com available, table.com available, computer.com available. And I missed the boat. I didn't buy anything. Yep. I was 11 and I was broke. I did not miss that train on social media. Anytime a handle was available, I swooped it up. Anytime somebody had a handle, I went to them aggressively and made sure that I bought it from them. And, there's some inactive usernames that I was able to acquire from Instagram and from Facebook, but I just made it my sort of life goal to not miss domain name 2.0 with social media. And I think that the passion behind missing the domain.com phase was a lot of the fuel behind that fire.
Awesome. Very, very smart. Yeah, just think about it. If we had bought up some of those good domain names back in the mid 90s, we'd all be worth tens of millions of dollars right now when we sold them.
Yeah, if I would have just rounded up $30 to get 3 of them, I would have been okay.
Cool, man. Any parting thoughts or words of wisdom for the audience?
Look, at the end of the day, a lot of the success that people are having is because they just went out and they made things happen. They didn't worry about too many of the details. They just went out, they got started with their idea. Don't ever be afraid to ask for advice. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of people that know more than you in every scenario. There's people that know more than me in every scenario. I'm never, ever, ever afraid to go to somebody and say, hey, I need your advice on this. Of course, you always want to try to reciprocate. And if you can add value to somebody in the process, and sometimes you can't, ask anyways. And then, of course, when it comes to customers, when it comes to making money, when it comes to running your business, don't take no for an answer. And I know that sounds very cliche to say, but what I mean by it is just figure out what their objection is. Why are they saying no to you right now? And figure out if that's something that you can overcome to get that to a yes.
One last question. I guess I just thought of this one just because it's a new platform that many of us are, just getting into or been using for the last year, Snapchat. What is Snapchat doing for the marketing game, influencer marketing and whatnot?
Yeah, so I think that it was the thing that made Facebook realize that that's where the internet is going. And the internet went through a few different transitions over time. Like it used to be, believe it or not, really cool and really hip to write 17-page blog posts. And people used to read them. People used to write them and people used to read them. You could not pay me to read even one of them right now. Then what ended up happening was people were like, oh, 140 characters. And then that just completely changed the game. You have to figure out how to get what you want to say into 140 characters or less. And you started shaving words and you started saying things in a little bit different language just to get your message by in 140 characters. Then the next revolution was photos. Instagram was a big pioneer of that. Sharing images then became, relevant on Facebook. And then the transition of video, Vine was obviously a big play in that on the social space. That's when YouTube wasn't necessarily looked at as a social media site. It was more just looked at as like a search engine for like videos, a database of videos. But now, it's considered a social media platform. And, then the revolution after that was live and raw. And I think that that's where the big revolution happened, which was like, I don't want to see, Leonardo DiCaprio on stage photoshopped with the perfect picture on his Instagram anymore. I want to see him behind the scenes live in the green room on Snapchat, because there's no filters, there's no editing. You don't get only what they want you to see. You get everything. And I think that that's where this whole transition happened. And now, because of Facebook Live and Instagram Live and Snapchat, everybody's an influencer. The hot girl down the street might be an influencer because she says, I'm going to XYZ bar tonight, and it's Friday. Now people might be influenced to go to that bar because that girl's going. And it could be, for a local circle that you're influencing. It could be saying, hey, I'm going to drive my new Ford F-350, and you're influencing people because you're a car influencer. Now, even the mom on Facebook who has the dopest chocolate chip recipe is going to be an influencer because she can put it out to Facebook Live. She involves the kids, and now she's an influencer. So the game has really changed, and Snapchat, I would say, is a big pioneer in that. And not in necessarily the fact, and this is the unique thing, not necessarily in the fact that they did it and they're killing it, because they are, but in the fact that they got Facebook to completely change their business model, because all of the attention was on Snapchat, and Facebook says, we have the ability to pivot. We're smart. We're not going to be the next MySpace and dissolve away. We're going to pivot to where the attention is, how people are consuming information, and that's video, and that's live video, that's unedited video, and that's raw footage. And that's happening right in front of your eyes. People are commenting and saying stuff, and people are reacting to you on the screen as you say something. And that's where the internet is. I think Snapchat is super important. I think it's not going anywhere. I think that it's going to be a constant battle between Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram. But I think that at the end of the day, everyone else is the one that benefits from that battle, because the technologies get better much faster. All of the features that we need are integrated much faster because they're both just trying to stay afloat. And again, we are the beneficiaries of that because they're building us a better and better technology every single minute of the day to try to compete with each other.
Right. Absolutely agree. I mean, I use Snapchat more now than I use all the other platforms probably combined, because it's just the first one I post to is Snapchat. It's in the moment.
And what I recommend that people do is, they say, should I post on Instagram stories or should I post on Snapchat? The reason that Instagram stories and Instagram is so important is because, for example, I get about 25,000 views on Snapchat. Not super impressive, but I have, 260K on Instagram, right? So I'm getting, without ever growing my sort of Instagram stories account, having to start from scratch, I can get 30, 40,000 views on my Instagram story just because I already have a built-in audience there. And Instagram is smart in releasing that feature because they just want to steal as much attention away from Snapchat as they can. Even if they're building or own or operate an inferior product, if you already have a built-in audience and the technology is not Snapchat, but it's almost as good, then I think people are more prone to posting there than they are to Snapchat more frequently, just because they reach more people, because you already have your built-in audience there. It's the same reason that Facebook Live is so important. It's like, you got all your friends there. If you want to say something to all your friends, put it up on Facebook Live and they can all see it because they all follow you there already.
So once again, from all of us, thank you, man. And if they want to connect with you, like you said, best places are Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I'll put all those usernames in the show notes as well, or just send you an email, right?
Yep, absolutely.